Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to lecture number 16 of the course Object Oriented Programming. In the previous lecture, we have seen what is an abstract class. I just tell you what is an abstract class. We haven't seen an example of how we can create an abstract class, right? We will see the example how we can actually create an abstract class, that is a class जिसके आप उस objects ना बना सकें. We just use an abstract class to drive other classes, right? And we will see how we can make a class in C++, an abstract class, while we are in our next topic, that is in polymorphism. Then we have seen public and private inheritance. What is the difference between public and private inheritance? And we have seen some of the examples and very detailed discussion on public and private inheritance. So the difference comes when we create an object of drive class. So आपने एक class को public, एक class को drive किया हुआ है या inherit किया हुआ है from class A, एक दूसरी class को भी किसी class B से inherit किया हुआ है. Now एक public inheritance है और अगर एक private inheritance है, तो इनका जो difference आएगा नज़र कि public और private inheritance में difference क्या होता है, वो जब आप उस drive class के object बनाएंगे तब आपको पता चलेगा, ठीक है. So अगर पब्लिक इनहेरिटेंस है तो ड्राइव क्लास के ऑब्जेक्ट बेस क्लास के पब्लिक मेंबर्स को एक्सेस कर सकते हैं, और अगर पब्लिक इनहेरिटेंस नहीं है तो ड्राइव क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बेस क्लास के मेंबर्स को एक्सेस नहीं कर सकता. Then we have seen a level of inheritance, or you can see a hierarchy of inheritance. Here comes the terminologies of the base, a direct base class or indirect base class. So indirect base class is the base class of a base class, right? एक drive class है, उसकी एक base class है, तो उस base class की एक और base class है, तो अब drive class की वो जो upper base class है, it becomes the indirect base class. Like in this example, so class A is class B is derived from class A, class A, B is inherited from class A, and class C is inherited from class B, right? And here class B is the direct base class of class C, class B A is a direct base class of class B, and class A is indirect base class of class C. So object of class C can access public member of class A and B because the type of inheritance is public. In today's lecture, we will see multiple inheritance. We will see the example program, employee and student class. Last lecture में we have started this topic. So in this lecture we will complete this topic with the example program, employee and student class, with the employee and student class. So employee का पहले से program, you know that program very well, that we have created a base class employee, and then we drive 3 more classes from that class, and the name of these classes are manager class and scientist class and laborer class, right? Now we will see how we can use the student class with the employee class, and how the manager class and scientist and laborer class can be derived from these 2 classes. That is actually the multiple inheritance. Then we'll see the constructor in multiple inheritance, the role of the constructor in multiple inheritance, and we'll see the example program for that as well. Then we'll see what is the aggregation and the composition concepts, and how we can represent these concepts in C++. Multiple inheritance. A class can be derived from more than one base class. This is called multiple inheritance. For example, you have a class C that is derived from class A as well as derived from class B. ठीक है? So inheritance की type matter नहीं करती, as long as it is derived from 2 classes, a single class derived from 2 different base classes, that is called multiple inheritance. We can represent this relationship in a UML diagram, unified modeling language diagram, like this. So this is class A, class B, class C, and this empty arrow represents the inherit relationship, right? Class C is inherited from A and class C is inherited from B. That is, class C basically gets all the behavior of class A and class B. We can say like this as well. ठीक है? So that is multiple inheritance कि एक क्लास आपके पास दो या दो से ज़्यादा क्लासेस से ड्राइव हुई हो. यहाँ पे ज़रूरी नहीं है कि दो क्लासेस हों. You can have 3, 4 and n number of classes जिससे you can drive class C, right? Let's suppose we need to record the educational experience of some of the employee in the employee program. So you remember the employee program we had seen in detail while we are on the topic of level of inheritance. So employee, then we drive a class manager, drive a class scientist, drive a class laborer, and then we drive another class from a laborer class, and that is a foreman class, right? So now we want to extend that program, and we want to record the educational experience of some of the employee. Why some of the employee? Because there are some kind of employee whose educational experience is not required. For example, laborer. You want to know the educational experience of scientist or manager, but you do not want to record or store the educational experience of maybe laborer, right? So in a different project, we have already created a class called student. So somewhere in a different project, you create a class student that models the student with different educational backgrounds. So इस class में basically student की class ये करती है कि it models the education of a student. For example, highest degree earned and year of passing out, or maybe the name of the institute or university, right? So instead of modifying the employee class, one way is that we go and modify the employee class and put it a two private data member in that class and change and modify all of the functions, right, accordingly. That is one of the way. So instead of modifying the employee class, the other way is to we will add this data by multiple inheritance from the student class. We create a student class, write all the educational stuff like things in the student class, and then we inherit we will do multiple inheritance, and we inherit manager class from the employee class and the student class as well. We inherit scientist class from the employee class and the student class as well. ठीक है? So student class किस लिए? It is used to store the educational record of a scientist, and employee class is there because we want to store the basic employee information. जो एक employee की जो basic information होती है, we want to store that information. So that is basic for all of the employees, वो जिसकी type scientist हो या manager हो या laborer हो. So the student class stores the name of the school or the university last attended and the highest degree received. ठीक है? Student की class में दो fields रखे हुए हैं, आप multiple fields भी रख सकते हैं. So the educational information is not relevant to every class of employee. For example, laborer. You won't need to store, maybe you won't need to store the educational record of a laborer, right? But you need to store the educational record of a scientist or a manager, right? So we create a separate class for a student and separate class for an employee. So employee class को हमने पहले से create कर दिया था. Now we create a separate class for student, और manager और scientist की class को हम student से भी inherit करेंगे, right? And that is actually the multiple inheritance. So this is a UML diagram. It shows employee class and a student class, and then a manager class is inherited from employee as well as from student. Scientist is inherited from student as well as from employee, but laborer is inherited from employee only, right? So that kind of inheritance is called a multiple inheritance, where a drive class is inherited from two or more classes, right? If you want to store the education record of a laborer, then you need to make this relationship that laborer is also inherited from student, right? So let me show you a mini program, a small program showing this relationship. So we have a student class. What is inside the class, we will see it. And we have an employee class. You already know what should be inside that class. And a manager class, जो कि inherit हुई है employee class से and inherit हुई है student class से. The type of the inheritance is private, and we have already seen why this inheritance is private. I told you in the previous lecture that why it is private and why the inheritance with the laborer class is public, right? So laborer class जो है inherit हुई है employee class से, and the type of inheritance here is public. But with scientist and manager, the type of inheritance with the employee and student class is private. This means that manager और scientist class के जो objects हैं, these objects are only able to access the public member of its own class, right? They are not able to access the public member of their base classes. But here with the laborer case, you remember the laborer class we create an empty class, right? There is no function, no data member in the laborer class. So that's why that is one of the reason that we make this inheritance public. Why? Because we allow that the object of the laborer class are able to access the public function of a employee class. ठीक है? दूसरे केस में इसलिए नहीं कर रहे थे कि साइंटिस्ट और मैनेजर की क्लास में वी ऑलरेडी प्रोवाइड गेट डाटा एंड पुट डाटा फंक्शन, राइट? सो द ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ दोज क्लासेस नीड टू कॉल दोज फंक्शन नॉट द फंक्शन ऑफ द बेस क्लास. बट we haven't provided any function in the laborer class, so we want that the object of the laborer class should be able to call the function of its base class, public member function, right? So that is a mini program showing all the relationship. This is without the class definition, you can say. So this is all the relationship, right? So with comma separated list, you can put comma over here and write another class. ठीक है? So आप एक को private रख सकते हैं, एक को public. आप you can do like this, that you can inherit employee class. The type of inheritance is public. Inherit manager class from a student class, and the type of inheritance could be private. So ऐसे किया जा सकता है कि drive class जो inherit हो रही है एक class से, उसकी inheritance की type public है. The type of inheritance with another class is private, right? So you can have the inheritance type private, public, or public, private, and you can inherit any number of classes. ठीक है? You can have any number of base classes. So manager class can be derived from employee, student, and any other class, right? So जिस क्लास से वो ड्राइव होगी या जिस क्लास को इनहेरिट कर रही है, इसका मतलब ये है कि उसकी जो वो बिहेवियर है, इट इज़ बेसिकली गेटिंग ऑल द बिहेवियर ऑफ दैट बेस क्लास. सो एम्प्लॉय क्लास का बिहेवियर है, इट बिकम द बिहेवियर ऑफ अ मैनेजर क्लास. स्टूडेंट क्लास का जो बिहेवियर है, इट बिकम द बिहेवियर ऑफ अ मैनेजर क्लास, राइट? So that is a program showing the definition of the employee class. So there are two private data member, name and unsigned int, long int number. And then we have a get data function where we are displaying the message enter last name and store that name in the name, and then enter number, store it in the number, and then in this put data function, that is basically the display function. And so that we make it constant, and you already know why this function is constant. And then we display the name and the number of the book, right? So that is the employee class. The other class we have is a student class. It has one of the data member is a school and the other is degree, right? So school means name of the school. You can see in get edu, get education means that you input the value for the educations, that is the school and the highest degree earned, for example BSc, MSc, MS or PhD, and then put education. It will display the content of the school and the degree. These are the private data member of the student class. Now these data members are private in the employee and the student class. This means that these data members are hidden in any class that is derived from employee or student. ठीक है? But if they are protected, then this means that these data members are accessible from the definition of the derived class. But now they are private. This means that they are not accessible. Only thing that is accessible from the definition of a derived class, that is these public functions. ये जो public functions हमारे पास यही accessible हैं, right? And then we have a manager class. We inherited this class from an employee and a student. The type of inheritance is private. This means that the object of manager won't be able to access the public members of the base class, and base class are employee and student. So manager class में हमारे पास title है, dues हैं. Now in get data function you can see we first call here द गेट डाटा ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय क्लास, ठीक है। तो जब मैनेजर क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बनाएंगे तो उसमें क्या क्या चीज़ें स्टोर होंगी, उसमें एम्प्लॉय क्लास का जो हमारे पास है उसमें मैनेजर क्लास में क्या क्या होगा, नेम होगा, नंबर होगा, एंड देन title, dues, school name and last degree. So these are all the fields that exist within the object of a manager class, ठीक है, because this class is inherited from employee and student class. So यहाँ पर जो सबसे पहले ये फंक्शन कॉल होगा गेट डाटा का, इसको आपने क्लास नेम के साथ कॉल किया, यू कॉल दिस फंक्शन विद द नेम ऑफ द क्लास, दैट इज एम्प्लॉय डॉट गेट डाटा, ठीक है। एम्प्लॉय स्कोप रेजोल्यूशन ऑपरेटर गेट डाटा, so get data will be executed. Now when get data will be executed, it input the data in name and number. So name और number किस object के, manager object के, right, because manager is a employee basically, right. So manager का जो ऑब्जेक्ट बनेगा उसमें तमाम वो डाटा मेंबर आ जाएंगे जो उसके अपने डाटा मेंबर्स हैं, और वो डाटा मेंबर्स जो कि किसी भी उसकी बेस क्लास में इधर इट इज डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, दे बिकम द पार्ट ऑफ द ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट। सो मैनेजर के जो ऑब्जेक्ट में नेम और नंबर की जगह नंबर में ये इनपुट ले लेगा गेट डाटा फंक्शन, एंड देन उसके बाद यू आर taking input in title and dues, and these are the private data member of this class. And then you call a student function, you call a get that edu function with a student, ठीक है। आपने get edu function call किया with the class student, and it will call the student function and input the value school and degree. So manager class का जो एक object बनेगा उसमें we have name, number, school, degree, title and dues. So these are the 6 fields that exist in the any object you created for a from manager class, ठीक है। एंड देन पुट डाटा फंक्शन में सेम ही चीज़ हो रही है, फर्स्ट आप कॉल करेंगे पुट डाटा एम्प्लॉय का, एंड देन पुट edu स्टूडेंट क्लास की, एंड देन इन बिटवीन आपने इसको प्रिंट कर दी है। इसका कॉलिंग सीक्वेंस ज़रूरी नहीं है किसी तरह से हो, आप ये एम्प्लॉय को बाद में भी लेके जा सकते हैं, स्टूडेंट को पहले भी ला सकते हैं। सो एनी सीक्वेंस कैन बी फॉलो, राइट। सो एम्प्लॉय के साथ एम्प्लॉय क्लास का जब व्हेन यू कॉल अ पुट डाटा फंक्शन, इट विल डिस्प्ले द वैल्यू ऑफ it display the value of name and number of the these are the private data member of employee class, and these are also the member of the manager class object. And then you display the title, golf club dues, and then student scope resolution operator put edu, put education. Now ये student class का put education function call करेगा, और last degree and the other field is the school that will be displayed, right. So these are the functions which will be called, and these are basically explicitly called, right. अगर आप इसको ऐसे कॉल नहीं करेंगे तो ये कॉल नहीं होंगे, ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं कॉल नहीं करूं और ये खुद से कॉल हो जाए, तो इसमें इम्प्लिसिट नहीं है, ठीक है। तो जब भी मैनेजर क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बनेगा वो सबसे पहले मैनेजर क्लास में देखेगा कि अगर उसमें उस क्लास की डेफिनेशन में दैट क्लास डेफिनेशन कंटेन्स द सेम फंक्शन नेम which is being called with the object of a manager class. If it exists, it will execute that function, and then if it won't exist in the definition of a manager class, it will look for the same function name in the base class. If the type of the inheritance is public, तब वो base class में देख लेगा, otherwise वो error दे देगा कि ये function does not exist. Now this is a scientist class, ठीक है। इसमें प्राइवेट डाटा मेंबर जो है दैट इज इनहेरिटेड फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉय क्लास एंड स्टूडेंट क्लास, एंड द टाइप ऑफ इनहेरिटेंस हेयर इज प्राइवेट, ठीक है। Here we are doing the same thing. The only private data member of scientist is the publication. So we are doing the same thing. We first call the get data function and get edu function, and before get edu function we display a message enter number of publication, then we input in publications, ठीक है। And put data function में क्या हो रहा है, you're calling put data for employee which will basically print name and number of the employee, and then you see out number of publications that will be printed, and then put education you call put education function, ठीक है। जब put education function call करेंगे तो वो student class का function है, now it will display the school name and highest degree earned, right. So these are the function calls of the base class from the drive class. this is a laborer class, that is an empty class having a public relationship, public inheritance with the employee class. Now in the main program, this is a main, we will go to the program first. Let's dry run the main program. In the main we create one manager object, two scientist object, these are S1 and S2, and one laborer object, that is L1. सबसे पहले फंक्शन का कॉल करें get data. So that is the program output. Enter data manager 1, and then you're calling the function m1.getData. So जब ये फंक्शन कॉल होगा तो सबसे पहले वो कॉल करेगा एम्प्लॉय का गेट डाटा फंक्शन. इफ यू गो टू द डेफिनेशन ऑफ द गेट डाटा फंक्शन विद इन द मैनेजर क्लास, सो सबसे पहले एम्प्लॉय का क्लास का जो गेट डाटा फंक्शन है उसको कॉल करेगा, and it will ask for enter last name, enter number. When you input these two things, control will be transferred back to the call position. The next statement will be enter title and enter golf club dues, जो कि मैनेजर की एक मैनेजर क्लास के दो प्राइवेट डाटा मेंबर थे, उसमें इनपुट ले लिया. And then it will call the it will call basically student scope resolution operator get edu. ठीक है, गेट edu का फंक्शन कॉल करेगा, एंड गेट edu का जब फंक्शन कॉल होगा देन यू हैव टू एंटर द नेम ऑफ द स्कूल एंड एंटर द डिग्री अर्न. सो हियर द लास्ट नेम इज बार्डले and its number is 12, that is the vice president, and his golf club dues is 100,000, and name of the school is Yale, and earned degree is MS, right? Then we input the data for scientist, we display the message enter data for scientist, and then s1 dot get data. So s1 क्या किस क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट है? साइंटिस्ट क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट है. साइंटिस्ट क्लास का गेट डाटा को ये एग्जीक्यूट करेगा, और वहाँ पर सबसे पहले काम क्या था? यू आर कॉलिंग द गेट डाटा फंक्शन ऑफ अ एम्प्लॉय. सो दैट फंक्शन विल बी एग्जीक्यूटेड. इट विल आस्क फॉर द लास्ट नेम, देन एंटर नंबर, एंड देन एंटर नंबर ऑफ पब्लिकेशंस. ठीक है, सो नंबर ऑफ पब्लिकेशंस जो हैं वो साइंटिस्ट की क्लास में हमने गेट डाटा के फंक्शन के अंदर लिखा हुआ है इसको. So and then it will call the student class get data function. Student का get data function कॉल करेगा किस तरह से? So पहले employee के लिया, then see out, and then student के साथ get data function, student class के साथ इसने get edu का function कॉल किया है, right? So then it will call get edu function with a student class, right? Student scope resolution operator get edu. Now it will invoke the student function get edu, and it will display the message enter name of the school and highest degree earned, right? So the third one is basically the enter data, and that is laborer 1. For laborer 1, so enter last name and enter number. So laborer class में हमारे पास कुछ भी नहीं है, but the type of inheritance between the laborer and the employee class is public. This means that the object of a laborer class can call the function of the base class, member function, public member function of the base class. ठीक है, now let's go to the program, C program, and execute this program, and let's see the output and understand it in more detail, right? So this is the code. We have a constant with the name, constant integer with the name len, right? Then we have an employee class. This is an employee class, and then we have a student class, right? And then we have a manager class. So आपके पास एक ही .cpp की फाइल में you can have n number of classes. ठीक है, now the type of inheritance is public. This means that the object of manager class won't be able to call the public function of the base class, that is employee and student. This means that we have to provide the definition of get data and put data function. This is also the example of overriding function. ठीक है, आपने function को override कर दिया इस class में, drive class में you override the function of the base class, get data and put data function, right? And then we have a scientist class. ठीक है, ये भी privately inherit हुई है from the employee and the student class. It has only one private data member, that is publications, number of publications, and then labor class is empty class. Okay, so ये empty class है, that's why we make the type of the relationship with the employee is a public, right? So जब labor class के साथ आप dot लगा के get data का function call करेंगे, this will be the function of employee class basically. ठीक है, then we create an object of m1. so m1 का जो object होगा उसके private data member कौन कौन से होंगे? उसके private data member होंगे name of employee, basically name, number, and then title, club dues, last school और name of school and highest degree. ठीक है, so ये तमाम जो fields हैं they are the private data member of m1, because m1 जो manager class है उसके अपने field कौन सी है? उसके अपने fields तो ये दो हैं, title and dues. The other four fields them inherited from the employee and the student class. ठीक है, इसी तरह से जब अपने साइंटिस्ट के बनाएंगे दो ऑब्जेक्ट, एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया S1, दूसरा ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया S2, सो एक ऑब्जेक्ट विल ऑक्यूपाई, वन ऑब्जेक्ट विल ऑक्यूपाई नेम, नंबर, पब्लिकेशन, नंबर ऑफ पब्लिकेशंस एंड नेम ऑफ द स्कूल एंड हाईएस्ट डिग्री अर्न. ये तमाम चीज़ें स्टोर करेगा. And when you create an object of a laborer class, it has only two private data member, and these two are the name and the ID of the employee. ठीक है, and basically these are the private data member of the employee class. ठीक है, so this is why this is so, because we have a relationship over here public. And why we make that relationship public? Because we do not have any function currently available in the labor class. ठीक है, अभी इस टाइम पे हमारे पास labor class में कोई function available नहीं है. Then उसके बाद मैंने प्रोग्राम को डिटेल से एक्सप्लेन कर दिया था. Now let's compile it and execute that program. So enter data, manager 1, enter last name, let's say Hamid, number is 137, title is manager, golf club dues are 1000, name of school is, let's say, CIIT, highest degree is, let's say, MS, right? Now enter data for scientist, right? So हमने दो scientist के लिए एक manager, एक scientist और एक laborer के लिए data enter किया, and then we are going to display that data. ठीक है, scientist name is Jamil, number is 145, publications, number of publications. ठीक है, ये चीज़ हमारे पास पहले नहीं थी. Why this is so? Because scientist की क्लास में we have this specialized field. ठीक है, manager की क्लास में ये sorry एम्प्लॉय की क्लास में आप इसको नहीं रख सकते, बिकॉज हर एम्प्लॉय की नंबर ऑफ पब्लिकेशन नहीं होगी, मैनेजर की नहीं होगी, लेबरर की नहीं है, राइट? दीज आर लेट्स से 27. नेम ऑफ स्कूल, स्कूल इज लेट्स से हाईएस्ट डिग्री इज PhD, लेट्स से, राइट? नाउ एंटर डाटा फॉर लेबरर. हमने एक मैनेजर का डाटा इनपुट कर लिया है, एक साइंटिस्ट का डाटा इनपुट कर लिया. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू इनपुट द डाटा फॉर द लेबरर. लास्ट नेम इज लेट्स से उस्मान, एंटर नंबर, एम्प्लॉय नंबर इज लेट्स से 34, then it display all the things, right? Data on manager 1, name Hamid, number 137, title manager, club dues 1000, school CIT and degree earned is MS. Data on scientist 1, name Jamil, number 145, number of publication is 27, and school is MIT and degree earned is PhD. So data on laborer 1, name Usman and number is 34, and then press any key to continue, right? So this is the program, example program for that represents the relationship of the multiple inheritance. I hope you understand it. Now constructor in multiple inheritance. What is the sequence of constructor? Suppose we are writing a program for building contractors and that models lumber lumber supply item, right? So इसको example के साथ लेके चलते हैं, and then we will see that how constructor will be called, right? Or can be called in multiple inheritance. So we want to write a program for a contractor, and that models the lumber supply items. So lumber are the long pieces of wood, right? So a class that represents a quantity of a lumber of a certain type. For example, 100 8-foot long construction grade 2.4S lumbers. 8 foot long 100 लंबर हों, सारे के सारे 8 फुट लॉन्ग हों, और उनकी कंस्ट्रक्शन ग्रेड जो है वो 2.4S होना चाहिए, राइट? So these are the lumbers basically. So you have a length of a lumber. So this is the length, and then this is the cross section area. इसकी width कितनी है और इसकी length कितनी है. So width and breadth, right, of the cross section area of a lumber, right? So वो 2 इंच चौड़ा है, 5 इंच चौड़ा 5 इंच जो है इसकी breadth है, और length इसकी 8 फुट है, right? Let's say. So number class. So class store various kinds of data about each such lumber item, and for example, what are that kind? This is the length of a lumber, number of such pieces of lumber, unit cost, and then description of the lumber, that is dimension of the cross section of lumber. Okay? So these are the things that we want to represent, and the grade of the lumber, that is rough cut or construction grade or surface foreside. So these are the fields that we want to store in a lumber class, that is length, number of such pieces of lumber, and their unit cost, and description of lumber and grade of lumber, right? So it is convenient to create a class type. It would hold description of lumber, that is dimension, that is 2 multiplied by 6, dimensions of a cross section of a lumber 2 inch and 6 inches, then grade of lumber. For example, if it is a construction grade lumber, so we write constructor constructions with it, right? So these two are the type, and this is the class. Type is the name of the class. It has 2 strings, dimension and grade. Then we have a constructor. So this is the constructor 1, constructor 2, default constructor that initialize the private fields of that class with some initial value. So dimensions में हमने na लिख दिया, और grade में भी हमने na लिख दिया, copy कर दिया, right? Then type. Then types 2 argument structure, 2 argument constructor. So we are passing one string, that is dimension, and the other string is the grade, gr. And then we are assigning the value, initializing the dimension with di, and initializing grade with gr, right? Then these are the other functions, member functions, get type and show type. Get type is enter, is to get things from the user, enter dimensions, and see in you input dimensions, and then enter grade, and then you display the message, the program displays the message enter grade, you input the value for the grade, right? So this is the get type function. You input the type, and show type will display the dimension colon grade on the screen, right? So that is all about the type class. And then the next class we have is a distance class. And distance जो है वो उसकी जो है length measure करने के लिए इतने feet and इतने inches का lumber है, right? And this dimension is basically the dimension of the cross section of the lumber, right? 2 inches by 6 inches है, 2 inch thickness है उसकी, मोटाई है, 6 inch उसकी width है, and then 8 inch and 8 feet and 6 inch is the maybe the length of that lumber. And for length we have a distance class, so we use distance class to represent the length of a lumber. So distance class के बारे में आपको clearly एक चीज मालूम है, we have a default constructor, 2 argument constructor, get test function and show test function, right? So this is a lumber class. So the name of the class is lumber, that is inherited from a type class and a distance class, and the type of inheritance is public and public, ठीक है? इसका मतलब है कि lumber class का जो object है, it can call the public function of a distance and a type class, right? The 2 private data members in the lumber class are quantity, and the other one is the price, quantity and price. Then the public members are number. So हम यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हैं, initializer list में. So this is the initializer list, basically this much long, and what we are doing in the initializer list, we are calling a default constructor of a type, default constructor of a distance class, and quantity को हम 0 से initialize कर रहे हैं और price को हम 0.0 से initialize कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. So now here we are calling the constructor of the base class explicitly, right? If we don't, then it will call the default constructor implicitly, right? So वो खुद से implicitly इसको constructor को call करेगा अगर आपने explicitly call नहीं किया. Why it need to call? Because उसने अपने जो data members हैं उनको initialize करना है. That is one of the reason. Then we have a number constructor having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameter. The name of the first one is the dimensions, grade. So we'll pass these two parameters, dimension and grade, to the type constructor, to argument constructor, और वो उसके dimensions और grade को initialize कर देगा di और gr की value के साथ. Then we have feet and inches. We need to pass these two values to a distance constructor. So ये तो constructor हैं, ये initializer list में दिए हैं, ठीक है हमने. And in the definition of the constructor there is nothing. Definition of constructor there is nothing actually, right? And then quantity and price. So these are the private data member of number class. इसकी अपनी class के private data member हैं. So we initialize quantity by QU and price by PRC, right? Now here the point to be noted is that here with the constructor, number constructor with an argument, we also call the constructor with two argument of the base classes explicitly, okay, by passing it some values. Now we have a get number function. Get number function में सबसे पहले क्या हो रहा है, type display करें. ये उसी तरह से लिखा हुआ है type scope resolution operator जो मैंने आपको पहले बता चुका हूँ कि here it will call the function of get type, function name get type of type class. And here it called the get dist function of a distance class, ठीक है. Then it is ask, आप get type का function जब call करेंगे type class का तो आपसे कहेगा please input dimensions, please input grade, and when you call a distance function, get dist function of a distance class, it will display the message and prompt for the feet and inches, right? And then after inputting these values, अब ये values input कहाँ पर जाएंगी, ये उस object में save होंगी जो number का object है जिसने get number function को call किया है. And then the other thing that is displayed on the screen is the enter quantity. Then you input the quantity, it will store in the quantity of the invoking object, and then the price will be stored in the price of the invoking object. And then we have अच्छा इन दोनों को मैंने एक लाइन में लिखा है. I mentioned these two statement in a single line, so that is possible. You can write it like this. I did it because of the space. जो यहाँ पर आपको स्क्रीन में नज़र आ रहा है वो इसमें इतनी ही स्पेस थी कि मैं इसको इसी तरीके से लिख सकूँ, राइट. देन उसके बाद शो नंबर का फंक्शन है. शो नंबर का फंक्शन सबसे पहले शो टाइप को कॉल करेगा. शो टाइप क्या करेगा कि वो टाइप क्लास का फंक्शन है शो टाइप. इट विल शो द टाइप, इट विल डिस्प्ले द कंटेंट ऑफ द object that called show number function, because object of a number class is also the object considered as an object of a type class and a distance class, ठीक है. And then it displays the message length, and then we call a show dist function with a distance class using a scope resolution operator. Now it knows that show dist function जो है वो distance class में मौजूद है. And then we display the price for quantity. So quantity को display कर दिया आपने because that is the quantity, and then price is equal to price multiplied by quantity, right? Now let's go to the program and see how it will execute it. It can be executed. So this is the program. So this is a type class, then we have a distance class, so what if there is no function over here, ठीक है. इसको बाद में करेंगे. and then we have a number class that is derived from a type and a distance classes, and in both the cases the type of inheritance is public. इसका मतलब है नंबर क्लास के जो ऑब्जेक्ट है वो इन क्लास के टाइप और डिस्टेंस के ऑब्जेक्ट को कॉल मेंबर फंक्शन को कॉल कर सकते हैं. सो जो भी ऑब्जेक्ट किसी भी क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट जब उस क्लास के मेंबर फंक्शन को कॉल करेगा, कंपाइलर विल लुक फॉर द सेम फंक्शन नेम इन दैट क्लास. इफ इट इज अ ड्राइव क्लास इट विल आल्सो देन लुक in the definition of a base class. ठीक है. So we create an object sliding, then we display the message as sliding data and sliding dot get number. So get number का मतलब क्या है कि वो basically users input लेगा. ठीक है. And then it creates another object of a number passing it the 6 value 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? And then we display the content of the number. First we compile it, then execute it. So sliding data, enter dimensions 3 by 7. So grade is, let's say, construction. Enter feet, so let's say it is 12 feet 3.5 inches. Quantity is 200. Price per unit is 10.5. Okay, now you have seen the execution of this program. So what if I make some changes? Let's say the type of the inheritance is private. Let me write a keyword private. Then what happened? Nothing actually happens. Why? Because this function name is same. We are not calling member function of a base class with the object of a drive class, right, in this example. So it doesn't make any difference if we make the inheritance private in that case, right? So inheritance is private. Let's compile it and execute it. So dimension is 3 multiplied by 4. Grade is B. Let's say feet is 5 feet 3.67 inches. Quantity 1300. Price per unit is 3. Okay. Now it display. So the first one is the sliding 3 by 4 B, length 5 and 3.567 inches. Price for 1300 is 133900 because price per unit is 3, right? $3 whatever. And then we have another number whose type is STUD. That is the dimension and that is the grade. Length is 8 feet and price is 200 and price for 200 is $890 and press any key to continue. ठीक है. So एक नंबर की प्राइस आपने इस ऑब्जेक्ट की प्राइस खुद से बता दी थी, सब चीज़ें खुद से इनिशियलाइज कर दी थी, right, over here. So हमने इसको प्राइवेट कर दिया, right. Now what if there is no function? यहाँ पर हम इस फंक्शन को ख़त्म कर दें. Then it will give us an error that there is no function get number, right? because first it will look the function over here, and if that function won't exist, it will look the function over here in the distance class or in the type class. So let's say we have a function over here, get number, and just place one cout statement in distance class, get number in distance class, end line, right? Now what happened if we call that function? That is not possible to call the get number function of the base class with the object of a drive class. Why? Because the type of inheritance is private. So distance के साथ हम type of inheritance को public कर देते हैं. Now what happened? Let's see. Okay, this is L with the small l. So if we make it private, let me check again. So if we make it private, now the type of inheritance with distance is private, type of inheritance with type class is private as well. Yes, it gives an error. In main function int, right? So this distance is inaccessible in this context. Why? Because the type of inheritance is private. Now let's make it public, and we can see that with public inheritance it is accessible. Okay, there's no error. So let's run it. So हमने इसको रन किया. सबसे पहले इसने लिखा स्लाइडिंग डाटा और इसने कॉल किया फंक्शन गेट लैम्बर का. अब गेट लैम्बर का फंक्शन कौन सा कॉल हुआ है? ये वाला कॉल नहीं होगा, बिकॉज इसको हमने कमेंट आउट कर दिया था. लैम्बर में कोई गेट लैम्बर फंक्शन नहीं है. अब एक ही गेट लैम्बर फंक्शन है, दैट इज इन द डिस्टेंस क्लास. ठीक है, हमने इसको डिस्टेंस क्लास में लिख दिया था. उसने उस फंक्शन को कॉल किया और आपके पास मैसेज सी आउट में जो वहां पर हमने लिखा हुआ था गेट लैम्बर इन डिस्टेंस क्लास, दैट इज डिस्प्लेड ओवर हियर, राइट? Get number in distance class. Now there is one ambiguity in a multiple inheritance. Let's see what is that ambiguity, or what is that confusion, or what is that point that we must take care of. So two base classes may have same function name while drive class has no function with that name. That can be a situation that in the two classes, for example in distance class and in the other class is the type class, you might have a function, let's say display, right, that display the value of the private data member, right, and then the drive class won't have a display function. ठीक है? So इस situation में if a drive class object call a display function, now which display function will be called? Either the typed class display or the distance class display. So that is the confusion or ambiguity, and compiler is not able to resolve it, and we should take care of that, right? For example, in a class A and class B, so class C is derived from class A and class B, and in class A we have a function show that have the same prototype of the function in class B show. ठीक है? So B में भी हमारे पास एक फंक्शन है जिसका नाम show है, A क्लास में भी फंक्शन है जिसका नाम show है, और दोनों की टाइप सेम है, that is return type, number of parameters, whatever, they are the same. Now in class C is derived from class A and class B. This means that the type of inheritance is public. This means that with the object of C you can call the public member function of A or B. Now what if with the object of C we call a function show? Which function will be called? Either of class A or of class B. So that is the confusion, right? So फॉर एग्जाम्पल लाइक दिस सी obj ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया सी क्लास का हमने, नाउ इसने शो फंक्शन को कॉल किया. सो यहाँ पर the compiler don't know which function to call, either to call a show function of class B or a class A, right? So both B and C contains a copy of a function inherited from A, and the compiler cannot decide which copy to use, and it signals an error, right? So what you can do is you can call the function with the class name, right? That is possible. The other confusion or the ambiguity is that is of the same type. For example, we have a class A and class B inherited from class A, class C inherited from class A, ठीक है. B और C दोनों inherited हैं class A से. Now we have created a class D that is inherited from class B and class C. So this is the hierarchy. We have a class A that has a function show. We have a class B and class C that is inherited from class A. So यहाँ पर हमारे पास show function नहीं है. Excuse me, so just forget about this function. There is no show function in a class B, right? No show function in a class C. Let me remove it. Okay. And class B and C are inherited from class A. And then we have a class D. It also have no show function. यहाँ पर कोई show function नहीं है इसमें, ठीक है. And then class D is inherited from class B and C, ठीक है. Multiple inheritance हुई हुई यहाँ पर. So ये जो multiple inheritance is in this case, इस केस में multiple inheritance हुई हुई यहाँ पर, right? इस केस में multiple inheritance नहीं हुई हुई, ठीक है. बिकॉज एक ही क्लास से आप दो क्लासेस को ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, बट यहाँ पर दो क्लासेस से आप एक क्लास को ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, राइट. नाउ इन दैट केस द पब्लिक फंक्शंस ऑफ बी, सी एंड ए दे आर डायरेक्टली एक्सेसिबल. सो इसको यूँ देखते हैं अगर हम कि बी is derived from A or B is inherited from A and the type of inheritance is public, ठीक है. This means that public member of a class A is also become the public member of class B, ठीक है. So ये जो show का function है ये public member है, ये B में भी आ जाएगा, ठीक है. ये B में भी public member function बन जाएगा. This means that the object of B can call that function. Class C is inherited from class A, the type of inheritance is public. So same applies over here, that is the public member of a class A also become the public member of class C. This means that object of class C can call these function, can call the function of its base class, public function of base class, ठीक है. So अब D class जो है वो B से भी inherited है और C से भी inherited है और type inheritance की public है, right? So now when the object of a D class calls the function show, ठीक है. एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया आपने D class का, let's say D1, small d1, एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाया, then you call a function D1 dot show. Now which function will be called? Either because D class के लिए जो show function है वो B class का भी है, C class का भी है, ठीक है. उसको A class visible नहीं है, right? बिकॉज ए क्लास के तमाम फंक्शन जो हैं वो बी क्लास का पार्ट बन चुके हैं और बी क्लास उनको इनहेरिट कर रहा है, ठीक है. सो दे आर द फंक्शन ऑफ अ बी क्लास एंड दे आर आल्सो द फंक्शन ऑफ अ सी क्लास बिकॉज सी क्लास आल्सो इज आल्सो इनहेरिटेड फ्रॉम क्लास ए एंड क्लास डी इज इनहेरिटेड फ्रॉम बी एंड सी. नाउ शो फंक्शन जो है वो दोनों क्लासेस में अपीयर हो रहा है, बी में भी और सी में भी. नाउ विच फंक्शन टू कॉल, राइट? सो दिस इज अनदर एम्बिग्यूटी इन द मल्टीपल इनहेरिटेंस. We should take care of this. I hope that would be that is clear to you. So you create an object of class D and then you call a show function. Now which show function will be called? Either of class B or of class C, ठीक है. So D class को ये नहीं मालूम कि show function जो है वो A class का है, ठीक है. Because A class के तमाम functions they are inherited in B class and they are also inherited in C class. राइट. सो अब इस तरह से समझ लें कि शो फंक्शन जो है वो बी क्लास में भी है, शो फंक्शन जो है वो सी क्लास का भी पार्ट है, राइट. नाउ इफ द क्लास डी कॉल दैट फंक्शन शो फंक्शन को कॉल करता है, तो वो B के शो फंक्शन को कॉल कर रहा है या C के शो फंक्शन को कॉल कर रहा है. So that is the second confusion or ambiguity. Now let's come to the aggregation and composition. So inheritance gives us an is a relationship, that is we already know. Manager is a employee, scientist is a employee, laborer is a employee, foreman is a laborer, right? So that is all is a relationship. So A is a kind of B is a kind of A. This is because B has all the characteristics of A and in addition some of its own, right? So B is a derived class, A is a base class. Aggregation gives us a has a relationship, right? For example, aggregation would make sense in this situation. A customer has a address, ठीक है? A customer is a address नहीं होगा, ये relationship इसमें possible नहीं है. Customer is a address, right? So इस केस में आप inheritance को use नहीं कर सकते. You have to use aggregation here, and aggregation is that represents has a relationship. A customer has a address, right? Now let's see the aggregation classes. Aggregation is represented. How we can represent the aggregation? For example, an invoice has an item line. So aggregation is also called a part whole relationship. So you have a part and that belongs to the whole. In object oriented programming, aggregation occurs when one object is an attribute of an other class. ठीक है, कोई भी क्लास A है हमारे पास, उसका हम एक ऑब्जेक्ट बना लें क्लास B में, that means वो उसका क्लास B का एक प्राइवेट डाटा मेंबर बन जाए. So that represents the aggregation relationship. ठीक है, so that is why I write in the title classes within classes. For example, we have a class A. It has some functions, right? And then we write the definition of class B. ठीक है, और we create an object of a class A in class B in the definition, and that relationship represents the aggregation. That is, B has a object of A or whatever you can say it. So that relationship represents has a, right? So B is a A, B is a A. So with that code you cannot say B is a A. ठीक है, so आप इस C++ के कोड को देखते हुए क्लास A है, क्लास B है, और B क्लास की डेफिनेशन में आपने A क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बना लिया है. By watching this code you cannot say B is a A, but you can say B has a A. ठीक है, so that relationship aggregation can be represented by creating an object of the other class within the definition of another class. A composition hierarchy defines how an object is composed of other objects in a fixed relationship, right? And we will see what is a composition in the next slide maybe. And aggregate object cannot exist without its component, right? So it is the aggregated object. Aggregated object is created with different objects. So different objects आपके पास होंगे, then the aggregated object is created. An object of a container class which is able to contain other objects, its existence is independent of whether it actually contains anything. So contained objects will probably be a dynamic and vary over time, right? So here contained class is basically the represents the aggregate object, right? And because it is container, the object of a container class is basically the aggregate object because it is the object that actually consists of the objects of other classes, right? For example, car boat is a container which is able to contain some or no objects. UML representation that shows the aggregation relationship. So that is the diagram that represents this kind of relationship. So library has a staff. You can speak it out like this: library has a staff, right? So it's not an inheritance. The staff is inherited from library and publication is inherited from library. That relationship doesn't make the sense. So the thing that makes sense is if we read it out like library has a staff. So you have to read it out from up to down, ठीक है. सो आप बेस क्लास जो अपर क्लास है उससे रीड करेंगे. सो ये जो एम्प्टी आपके पास ये जो साइन है, दैट इज अ साइन फॉर अ decision box. If you remember in the previous course, that represents the aggregation relationship. So aggregation relationship library और staff की class के दरमियान में आ रहा है, ठीक है. And how you can read that relationship? You can read it like library has a staff, ठीक है. अगर ये inheritance का होता, empty arrow होता हमारे पास like this. So that relationship represents inheritance. Then we say that staff is inherited from library, but that relationship doesn't make sense, right? So library has publications. Library has publications. So aggregation represents has a relationship, and we have already seen how we can represent this relationship in C++. So aggregation in employee program. So employee program आपके ज़हन में होगा. We have employee class, we have a student class, we have manager class, and scientist class and laborer class. So we have a student class. मैं class की definition में detail में नहीं जा रहा. Student class है, employee class है. Now now अब हमने inheritance को use नहीं किया, ठीक है. We haven't write that manager is inherited from employee and student. Instead of that, we create an object of student and employee within the manager class, right? इसी तरह से साइंटिस्ट क्लास में आपने स्टूडेंट क्लास का एक ऑब्जेक्ट बना लिया और एम्प्लॉय क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बना लिया, और इसी तरह से लेबर क्लास में आपने एम्प्लॉय क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बना लिया. इंस्टेड ऑफ यूजिंग इनहेरिटेंस, नाउ यू यूज एग्रीगेशन हियर, राइट? एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड द एग्रीगेशन. मैनेजर हैज अ स्टूडेंट, मैनेजर हैज अ एम्प्लॉय, राइट? सो दिस इज द UML diagram of the aggregation. So you can read it out. Manager has student, scientist has student. Basically student class जो है वो represent कर रही है educational record को, ठीक है. Name of school है, highest degree earned, so it represents those class. Or you can say that it is basically the education class, right? So scientist has a education, right? So इसका नाम अगर हम education रखते हैं, then it is more convenient to speak out like this. And similarly here, so laborer has employee, basically. So this kind of relationship is basically the aggregation relationship, and this is how we can represent the aggregation relationship. This is how we can represent the aggregation relationship in the employee program. Now let's go to the code and execute the program. Okay, now instead of this is employee class, this is student class. Now this is manager class, right? अब हमने manager को inherit नहीं किया, ना ही employee class से, ना ही student class से. What we did is we create an object of employee class and a student class within the definition of a manager class, and we call the function getData like this: getData emp.getData, right? और आप मल्टीपल इनहेरिटेंस की केस में क्या कर रहे थे? यू आर कॉलिंग द फंक्शन गेट डाटा विद द क्लास नेम, ठीक है. यहाँ पर एग्रीगेशन के केस में जो ऑब्जेक्ट है, दैट इज द पार्ट ऑफ द मैनेजर ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट? यूजिंग दैट ऑब्जेक्ट यू कॉल द function get data of the employee class, and same the case applies over here. Get edu आप कॉल कर रहे हैं फंक्शन, दैट इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ अ स्टूडेंट क्लास. इन मल्टीपल इनहेरिटेंस वी विल व्हाट वी आर यूजिंग इज, और इन सिंपल इनहेरिटेंस व्हाट वी आर यूजिंग इज कि हम क्लास का नेम यूज कर रहे थे स्टूडेंट, ठीक है, लाइक दिस हियर student scope resolution operator, then we call the get edu function. But here in the aggregation, since we have the object, since the object of a student class is the part of the manager class, so using that object we call the get edu function, ठीक है, and so on. इसी तरह से आप बाकी भी कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. Now in the laborer class, अब यहाँ पर क्या होगा कि laborer यहाँ पे inheritance यूज नहीं हो रही. So aggregation का मतलब it doesn't mean कि वो तमाम के तमाम function becomes the part of the drive class function, ठीक है, because that is in the inheritance. Aggregation में there's nothing like this, right? You create an object of employee class within the laborer class. Now within the laborer class you need to call those functions. ठीक है, आप इस object के साथ get data और put data जो employee class के function उनको call करेंगे. How you are going to call those functions? और यहाँ पर एक और चीज़ भी नोट करने की है. If we create an object of a laborer class, then that object can only call the function of a laborer class. यहाँ पर इनहेरिटेंस यूज नहीं हो रही. इट इज़ नॉट पॉसिबल कि हम लेबर क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट बनाएं एंड वी आर एबल टू कॉल द फंक्शन ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय क्लास इफ वी क्रिएट एन ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ एम्प्लॉय क्लास like this, right? Because there is no inheritance. In case of inheritance like this, now the public member function of the employee class also become the public member function of the laborer class implicitly. ठीक है, आपको explicitly mention करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपने just इसको inherit कर दिया employee class से. employee class के जितने भी public member function थे, they become the part of the laborer class. Now with the object of a laborer class you can call those function, but in case of aggregation you create an object of employee class within the definition of the laborer class. It doesn't mean that the object of with the object of a laborer class you are able to call the function of the employee class. So employee class का जब function call करना है you have to use the employee object. ठीक है, और वो आप इस तरह से use कर रहे हैं. So what you did is you create a function get data. आपने overriding function override कर ली है laborer class में employee class के object को. Sorry, that is not the function overriding, because you just make the same function name in the laborer class or get data or put data. Why the same function name? Because आपके पास वो scientist class में भी get data और put data function थे और manager class में भी get data put data function है. So एक symmetry चलती आ रही है, उसी को आपने इसको follow किया है. ठीक है, and then within the definition of that function you use the object emp of the employee class and call the function get data of the employee class. ठीक है, ये उसका तरीका है कॉल करने का. एग्रीगेशन के केस में you are not able to access the function of any of the other class. ठीक है, because इसमें कोई base class नहीं है, कोई drive class नहीं है. So laborer here, a laborer is not a drive class of an employee class. Manager, scientist, they are not the drive classes of an employee or a student class. What we did is we create an object of employee and a student class within the definition of a manager class and scientist class. ठीक है, इसका ये मतलब हरगिज़ नहीं है कि ये ड्राइव हुई हुई क्लासेस है. सो वो सारी खसूसियात जो इनहेरिटेंस की हैं, दैट इफ द टाइप ऑफ द इनहेरिटेंस इज पब्लिक, the public members of the base class becomes the public member of the drive class. That it doesn't apply over here, right? So that is the end of our today's lecture. In the next lecture we will see the composition in detail, and then we will start we will summarize our inheritance topic, and then we will start our next topic. Thank you very much for the listening.